Hi, so I'm back with a very different video today because I have a guest and I'm not on my couch and you're not on a stack of books in my phone. You're on my computer with my webcam. So, my guest, very fabulous, is going to introduce herself.
Hey everyone, I'm Xeiren, also known as Xeiren ASMR on TikTok and YouTube, but pretty much everyone calls me Xeiren. Spelled Xeiren. Yes, I know it's weird. It's a Kingdom Hearts thing. I'm a nerd. But then again, I feel like most goths, especially these days, are just nerds in disguise.
I mean,
Uh,
we do tend to get obsessed with weird stuff, so.
True. I mean, it's not as much of an undercover thing as it was in the 90s and the early 2000s. I feel like everybody used like the goth and the emo to like hide how nerdy they actually were.
Because they could look awesome doing it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I know a lot of guys don't like the emo scene kids, but I have always loved the look because I think it looks adorable.
Well,
I love the hair, by the way.
oh
I
my
used to
god.
have my hair like that.
Well, the thing is, like, I'm just old enough to remember, like, back when I first discovered what goth was, and emo was starting to emerge. Like, if you really go back in the history of emo, like, the fledgling beginnings of it actually like starts in the late 60s with like
Eh?
beatnik culture and a couple of other things that were like mixing together at the time. So like most people don't realize Jimmy Eat World, that's an emo band.
Don't know them, but
They're like the hey, don't write yourself off yet, it's only in your head you feel left out. Yeah, but
I mean,
it's one of those things where it's like everyone liked the Killers, everyone remembers
yeah,
Mr. Brightside,
yeah.
technically an emo band. Like not all of it was the more cringy screamo. I wear my
No, never
sister's
been.
jeans and my mom's eyeliner level of crazy. But it's like no, I remember the days when like the emo kids first started springing up, and like the older goth people were like, "Oh, poor babies. I mean, they're trying to do their own thing, but we'll protect them." And then they got snarky with us. And they got mean and started biting the hand that fed them. Then we started in on a little bit of emo hate, to be fair.
I'm
But
again where I come from, no goth scene to speak of, and if there were, I definitely was not a part of it because
mm-hmm.
I didn't look the part. I had no idea what goth even was. I just knew that there was like weird, darkly clad people every once in a while in the mall on Saturdays. But I mean, that
I'm
was
trying to imagine like throwing you into London during the height
yeah.
of the
Again,
vampire culture there.
yeah. I mean, this town I come from. It's a small town. It's very, very conservative in many ways. Like, don't do something different and don't think you are amazing and better than everyone else and stuff like that. It's very much that kind of conservative town.
Well, and the thing is,
Also,
like,
one of the reasons why I'm not moving back.
well, and that's one of the things that you and I commiserated on early. Like, I grew up in
Yeah.
this small town in the middle of Northern California. Everybody, when they think of California, they think of like San Francisco and
Mm.
LA. And I'm over here going, no, bitch. I had a high school graduating class of 40 people, and my little town had one exit off the road that led into town, and we were surrounded by rice fields and almond orchards.
Oh, that's
you,
rural.
and here's the weirdest part: goth as a fashion concept, as well as a music genre, got introduced to me by the only raver kid in my entire county.
Mm.
And he was one of my really good friends, and he's like, I think this is for you. To which I was like, I've heard of The Cure. Is that what that is? Because at that
It's
time, the only vocabulary I had for it at that time was vampire. And then I'm
mm.
like, oh no, it's this whole other thing. And I'm like, I need to learn more about this.
Yeah, like with me, I'm definitely what I call like a late gloomer. I always had, yeah, I do remember being a kid and I saw in some of the stores they had that cheap plasticky spiked collar you could get.
Yeah.
And I remember asking, I thought, that's the coolest thing ever. And I was like 10 or 11. And I asked Mom, oh, Mom, can I have that? And she looked at it and went, no. And that was it. And I never really asked again because quiet kid and just, trying to fit in because I knew I was different, but I didn't know why or how or what. But I just tried my best to fit in. And again, we didn't have, again, that's the thing, growing up not only in a small town in Denmark, but growing up in Denmark, like we didn't have that many channels. We had like 2 channels for the majority of time I grew up. I used to live with my mom, and we didn't have more than 2 channels until I was like 15 or 16. We didn't have the internet at home until I was like almost 17. I didn't have an email until I was like in my late 16th year because I needed it for school. And we only had local radio, and they only, played the top 10 pop songs or whatever.
Oh,
So
feeling.
I was never exposed to any of it. But when we got the internet and I was introduced to something called YouTube, at first I was like, oh, you can find funny videos on there. So I found funny video compilations. And then it just so happened that the one music program we had that had like 1 hour once a week, they played they were like, oh, this Finnish metal band has got a new singer and they have this song out called Amaranth. And I watched that, and of course it didn't get on the top 10 list because no one in Poppy Denmark that watched the show would vote it in. But I was like, oh, I thought it looked very cool and I really liked the sound. And then at one point I was like, you know what, this YouTube thing, I found Evanescence songs on there because Evanescence was big enough to where they would play it on the radio. So I knew like the singles. So I was like, oh, maybe I can find it. And I found it. And then I was like, oh, that's really good. I kept watching the video because I liked that kind of aesthetic. And then in the suggestions tab, I was like, oh, I can just go explore. And that's also what I do now. I just continue.
Well, I think we can.
Within Temptation, with What Have You Done? And that video, the way she looks, she has this like knee-length, dirty white dress, like with a corset cut off here, this big necklace, and her long hair and smoky eye, and her long boots. And I was like, I want to look like that. That's the most beautiful woman I've ever seen with the most beautiful voice I've ever heard. And I love the intensity of the music and the video. So that was when I was like, okay, there's something darker out there, but it was all on my little world on my laptop, on my computer, like nowhere else. And in the lyrics I wrote, because I've always written lyrics. So when emo came about for me, that was the first time where there was a darker fashion that was seen more widely in the street and was available in the stores, and it seems attainable because all of a sudden all these scenes, hairstyling and makeup videos popped up in my feed on YouTube, and I was like, oh, even though I was not an emo, I adopted a lot of the things like the hair and the eyeliner and stuff.
Well, and because the interesting thing
I had.
Well, the interesting thing about emo is that most of its aesthetic relies upon 2 things: DIY and cheap shit you can steal.
Yeah. And big hair. Don't forget the big hair.
Oh, that comes for free. All you need is a fucking comb and a lot of patience. Like, there's nothing lush about emo aesthetic. It's very much raccoon.
Yeah,
it is very much. It's very trash panda, and I mean that in the most sincere, sweet way possible. My sister was an emo kid, and I just look at it and I'm like, you are literally you're either buying or stealing these cheap little extensions that are made of plastic, that are neon green and like coloring in stripes with Sharpie.
Yeah.
And buying these studded belts for $5.
You know, a girl's gotta do what a girl's gotta do.
She at one point like wanted this one kind of striped shirt, but couldn't find it anywhere. So she literally stole one of my dad's undershirts and just went at it with a Sharpie marker until she got what she thought she wanted. Like, that's like the absolute DIY level like emo has. Now, speaking of DIY shit, I am going to bring that up when we talk more about goth stuff on a budget. In fact, I have a stack of books over here. But
yeah, it showed me. But yeah, going just a little bit back to the emo thing, like the thing, because with the music that you talked about, the Killers, I can tell they're good, just never really did anything for me. But then you, of course, over here in Europe, you had Tokyo Hotel. And the aesthetic that they pulled off was emo, so...
Oh, yeah.
I still have some of their CDs, like, they're my guilty pleasure. I put one of those CDs on, and like, I am 16, I'm back in my room, and I'm just living in this little world inside my laptop and my head and my lyrics, because that's all I had. But oh my god, just takes me back. And
well,
then,
honestly, I don't feel it.
My Chemical Romance came out with the Black Parade.
Oh yeah.
And
honestly, I don't feel these are any things you have to feel guilty about.
No,
honestly, at this point, damn near 20 years later, these things are classic now.
Yeah, and you're right. Of course, you're right, because you're wise beyond your years. Exactly. But yeah, that was my introduction to something darker, and then it kind of just went very low for a very long time. And I had a lot of ups and downs with, undiagnosed autism and everything. You have your ups and downs, and still living very much in my head. But when I did dye my hair black, and I had a friend who had known me for 10 years, and she looked at me and she was like, finally!
Well, the funny thing is I've only ever known you with crazy colored hair.
Yeah.
And so I'm like trying to imagine you with black hair, and I'm like...
It looked good. It looked really good.
I'm trying, but...
I know. It did look good. I don't think I have any pictures. I think my mom might have some pictures.
If you ever find any, you are obligated to send me some.
Yeah,
just
I know.
Because, oh my god.
Yeah, I know. And when I had it first dyed, I had a friend help me, and we also bought some purple dye, so I had like one purple streak, and then the rest was black. It looked freaking awesome.
I bet it did.
And then when I turned 18, I was like, now I'm 18. Now my parents cannot say anything about me getting tattoos or piercings. And I was like, my friend had her lip pierced, and I was like, I want my freaking lip pierced. Also because she told me, it doesn't hurt. I was like, okay, no pain. So
I don't have a story like that either.
Yeah, no.
No, never. Well, so I actually lived under my parents' roof quite a while after I was 18. And so this was actually my moving out present to myself. And here's the weird thing. Like, I've had this son of a bitch since I was 22. It's been a good almost, 13-ish years.
I had mine since I was 18, so it's been like 12, 13 years for me as well.
It's been about the same amount of time. I actually took it out to like wash, it, and I had a bit of a booger situation that day because allergies are a bitch, and my stepmom saw me without it in, and she was just like. Now, keep in mind, this was the woman who did everything from preventing me to wear, like, black lipstick and eyeliner. And, like, was just like, you're not piercing your face, not under my roof kind of thing. And she's like, what happened to your nose ring? And I'm like, it's on the bathroom counter. I had a booger situation. Allergies. You know this about me? She's like, yeah, but it's been so long since I've seen you without a nose piercing. You look naked. Okay. And it's so funny. It's so funny now too, because like I'll go many days without like makeup or whatnot, but if I'm wearing like bright clothes, or I'm just being generally more colorful than normal, she'll actually look at me like there's something wrong with you. And I'm just like, you tried your damnedest for like 10 years to not let this happen. And now she's like, no, it looks good on you. It makes sense. And I'm just like,
Like, that's the thing, my parents didn't care. Like, they had the rules, like, piercing, tattoos, all of that shit, not until you're 18, because that's the legal limit. But I could dye my hair if I wanted to, and I dyed it black, obviously.
No,
I could wear the clothes that I wanted, as long as I wasn't, like, you know, like, having everything hanging out.
Yeah, they didn't want you to be slutty.
Other than that, they didn't really care. Like,
see, my parents cared way too much.
Yeah, at one point my mom had a boyfriend and we went on vacation together with him and his kids. And I had just gotten this gray glittery eyeshadow from Maybelline. And I had a black eyeliner, so black eyeliner all around, that smoky, shimmery eye, lots of mascara. And my mom was
I think I know the exact eyeshadow you're talking about too. I think I might even have it in my makeup kit.
I can't, like, I do remember there was one of those no creasing eyeshadows, and they had them. Yes, that's what.
I have that one too.
Oh god, yeah.
It's almost like a gunmetal silver with all the yeah. That's the one.
It was so beautiful. So I did that on vacation because we had the time. Oh, and I have to put in my charger because it's telling me my battery is. Don't disappear. There we go. Okay, we're safe. But yeah, so I did that look, and my mom was like, "Oh, that looks good." And her boyfriend looked at me. He was like, "Would you let her leave the house like that?" And my mom was like, "Yeah, why not?" So he was like, "Oh, if it was my daughter, I would tell her to wash it off because I don't want my 13-year-old daughter to wear that much makeup." And my mom was like, "I wear a lot of makeup. She has seen me wear a lot of makeup ever since she was a little girl. Of course she's going to experiment, and no, it's not always going to look good, but I'm not going to stop her." And I was like, I might tell her if it looks shit, but other than that, you know, just let her do her thing. Like, she's a teenager. It's going to happen. Like, let her experiment.
Oh yeah.
Because I also think my mom had the thought process of either I know she's doing these things, or she's doing these things and I do not know. I would rather know so I can be a part of it.
you know what's weird is I had a lot of friends' parents that took the same sort of logic with their teenagers, but it wasn't over clothes or makeup. It was over alcohol consumption. Same logic. And I'm like, wait, so you'd rather your kid drink under your roof and you're doing shots with your teenage children? I think something's wrong with you.
My parents didn't want to take shots with me, but they were fine with me drinking under their roof if that's what I wanted. And we also had these kind of parties that were parents supervised, where they could volunteer and then be around. If something happens, you know, get too much, you get sick, they're like, okay, come with me. Here's the bucket. Where's your phone? Okay, I'm gonna call your dad to come and pick you up.
And here's the weird thing about that for me, it was always my grandma. Like, whenever I went on trips with my grandma, like, I always felt like she was being, like, bad because she would take, like, in my family, we were Pentecostal Christian, so pure wackadoo Protestant. Not so much for me anymore, but yes, that's what I grew up with. Meanwhile, my grandma's side of things grew up Roman Catholic. And then
you just repent tomorrow, it'll be fine.
And so it's just like, I'm like, hey, Grandma, we gonna go to mass this morning? She's like, you're in it just for the wine, aren't you? I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, the benefits of your great uncle being a friar. Like, yeah, we were that side of the crazy Catholic. but
again, atheist family in a mostly atheist country. My mom is a little bit spiritual. She's like, she believes there's something out there, but she has no idea what it could be. But she's like, there must be something, because that's just how I feel like.
She's got a case of the warm and fuzzies.
Yeah.
She's not a cold-blooded atheist.
My dad is, though. One day he just kind of told me, he was like, you know what? I'm an atheist because I believe when we die, that's it. There's nothing else. And I was like, okay, fair enough. Glad we had the talk, Dad.
The talk.
Yeah, so like I don't know, my dad's weird like that. All of a sudden he would just say stuff like that. So would my late grandfather. Like one day he was like, I don't you sitting down to eat lunch like the entire family. He was like, I don't want us to talk politics. I just want you guys to know I'm for the death penalty. So that's the kind of my dad's side of the family.
See, I have a feeling I would have gotten along with these people, because, or should I say, I would have gotten along with them. I don't know if they would have liked me.
I think my grandfather would have liked you. He was very open to pretty much anyone, as long as you're not being an asshole.
Well, like, I will say I'm kind of a weird goth person, because I actually like things like holographic nail polish and like sparkly
glitter too.
Like, I love like glitter on my nails. I like occasional glitter on my eyes and shimmer and all that stuff. I am a huge fan of like multi-chrome, but just not on my clothes.
I mean, that's one of the things that I actually have on my
I like
my list here to talk about.
I like shiny accessories. I mean, hello, look at my look at my glasses case. Basically, it's like,
I mean, shiny is good. All that glimmers is gold.
Well, what was it? Somebody was trying to tell me the other day. They're like, "Oh, you're like a goth mixed with a mermaid."
I think that's an awesome combination.
I'm like, yeah, it's like, dark makeup, this hair I was, born with. Some people would say it's a blessing. I say it's partially a curse.
I think it's beautiful.
Well, it's like, okay, I have very lovely, very healthy, very fiery red hair. Like right now the lighting's not doing much for me. But yeah. Here's the weird thing. My hair color, by everyone I know, like even later on when I found like actual alternative culture friends and everything, everybody gets so obsessed with my hair for the quality and the color that even people in the alternative subcultures would tell me, you dye your hair, I'm coming for you.
I was just the same with mine, but I didn't care.
And I'm just sitting here going like, okay, I guess I'm just gonna be a ginger goth the rest of my life. Because, everybody wants to come at me every time I want to, like, dye it. And then I was just like, yeah, but even with as fast as my hair grows, if I dyed all of this black and then I wanted to go back, it would take a while.
Yeah. I mean, black is not an easy color to come back from.
To which I'm just like, this is why wigs are a thing.
Yeah.
And so, although, I want to try and, like, make another beanie that's, like, this level of big. And then actually...
so cute!
And then, yeah, I found this years ago in one of the few record shops that was still around. And, yeah, it's got this, like, distressed thing and these little, like, rings on here. And I freaking love it. This thing's, like, my favorite winter hat of all time. But,
I have a black beanie that my mom knitted for me. And it's like, if I have a store and I don't want to wash my hair...
Yeah.
Fancy beanie!
And it's like, I want to get an oversized beanie like this, again, and then sew black extensions into it. So that way it's literally put on a hat, and then it's like I have all this like long raven hair, like almost down to my hips.
You know what? That's a quick fix.
Oh yeah, because then you don't have to worry about the lace front hairline or nothing. Yeah. No, you just got all that hair.
Yeah.
It's like, it was so funny too because I saw people like trying to sell something like that on Amazon for like 50 or $60, and the hair just looked like shit. And I'm just over here going, I could sew that into a hat. I live in a very urban area. We got wig shops. I can make it happen.
Yeah, again, that's also one of the reasons why I don't want to go back to my small town, because a bigger town like this, especially a student town, it's much easier to find what you need because they have those people to cater to.
I miss living in a college town. I really, really miss living in a college town. You could always find the weirdest shit. anyway, back to clothes, because we seem to be avoiding the actual reason for this video. And we're already half an hour in.
Yeah, I think we have like a good introduction to where we came from, and that's also one of the things like I have on the list is like, am I goth? And I think in the case of me, it can be a topic of discussion because some will say yes, some will say no. But I think in the case of you, it's a lot more clear that yes, you are goth and you're part of the gothic subculture. But again, yes.
What is goth? Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me. You're more.
Because even though music was my jumping off point into the whole gothic aesthetic with architecture, literature, movies, and all of that, gothic music, like what I have been introduced to in the last year or so, nothing has really grabbed me. Though what really was my jump into the deep end, there was I can't remember who it was, someone online made lyrics video. And I came across one that was Birthday Massacre, Happy Birthday. Okay, just gonna listen to that, sounds cool. And I freaking loved that song. I had it on repeat, and then everyone was like, okay, I'm just gonna check out what else this person has, because clearly they have good taste in music. And then on the sidebar, I was like, oh, that's not one of their lyrics video. It's called Emily Autumn, I Want My Innocence Back. Click that. Never looked back since.
Well, and the weird thing is I think especially with the advent, there's a couple things going on in recent years that wasn't really happening as much back in the day when things like this and this were made, because I got these back in Hot Topic way back in the day.
I have Gothic Charm School over on my bookshelf.
Yeah, and if you're not, if the people watching this are not aware, yes, these are 2 books. They are hardback. They are by Aurelio Voltaire. They're What is Goth and Paint It Black. Now, the reason I bring these books up is because this was the guide back in the day. Like, oh my god.
Also, quick note, Aurelio Voltaire is such a salt and pepper daddy. He's gorgeous.
Oh yeah, I recently got to meet him. It was great.
Ah, lucky you.
Yeah,
I see his on real life. I see his on his videos.
He's such a dork in real life. I kid you not. Like, he's like, he's handsome as fuck, and he's definitely got that salt and pepper thing going on. But it's just like, dude, you're an old Cuban man who can't stop flirting with everyone around them. He tried flirting with me by calling me 18.
Aww.
And I'm just over here going like, you silly sod. Like, no. Stop that. Stop it. Like, if I was 18, I wouldn't be able to be in this establishment.
Oh yeah, American, 21. Over here, 18.
Well, it's like, oh god, like, don't even get me started on that shit. I will go on a rant.
Yeah.
But yeah, like,
those wonderful books.
Yes. One is mostly for decor. The other is more of a quick guide and a fashion guide. Now, the thing is with this one, like, I was just flipping through it going like, oh man, do I even remember all the categories? No. but like, you know, you had the romantic goth, the cyber goth, the death rocker, you know, the rivet head. You don't really see a whole lot of rivet heads anymore.
I never heard that term, actually. Like the others, yes, I've heard rivet head. No,
rivet heads were the goth people that were primarily into industrial music.
Okay.
So your 9 Inch Nail fans from in the 90s. Now, the weird thing is like, yeah, this girl was me back in the day, and you can tell now that ain't it anymore, honey. But I was such an emo, or I was such an ether goth. Like, seriously, it's like all about, you know, sipping tea and writing and reading poetry, quoting Poe at random fucking moments. I had so many black velvet dresses. It was obscene. Like, seriously, this pose was my life, and Stevie Nicks was my grandmother. Like, that was my life back in the day.
I
Now,
will say it sounds fun and looks lovely, so
but then it's like a lot of different fabrics got developed in the last 25 years. And athleisure became super popular. And people were like, oh, wait, I can be goth and comfy? And that's
what
where
we
I'm
want.
at now. Basically, what I rock these days is what I like to call soccer mom goth, or um, another word that people are using a lot for it is new goth, where it's just like there's a lot of emphasis on, these elaborate
Yeah.
graphic prints, a lot of,
Like
you know,
crystals,
yeah,
thigh highs, long
you know,
extensions,
old occult
yeah,
imagery kind
symbols.
of used in these more delicate ways, and
Yeah.
leggings, so many leggings, oh my god. I'm like, oh god, I can be lazy comfortable and look like a badass. Like, oh my god, it is the plus size miracle, because one of the things Aurelio does bring up in this book in particular is that a lot of plus size gals, especially back in the day, were attracted to the whole goth aesthetic because goth people really don't care all that much about how you weigh. It's more about how you present yourself. But he did mention in the book, you might want to stay away from things like PVC and cat suits, because these things, and even in the community, are not made for you guys yet. And it's like, you don't want to look like a stuffed sausage, like bloating out on a grill. And I'm like, he's like, flowy skirts, shawls, things like that, scarves for days, go crazy, go ham, especially with the makeup. But
Yeah.
he helped me avoid a lot of pitfalls back in the day by giving me good advice on that shit. And so I feel like nowadays being plus size and goth is both a lot more affordable and a lot more comfortable. Because, oh lord. Now, if comfort's not your bag, I'm not saying don't wear corsets. I own two. Both of them are steel boned and they're fucking lovely. I mostly use them for steampunk conventions because I'm that nerd. And I'm not saying, don't go with the more ornate stuff. I'm just saying if you are a bigger person who is like, oh, I can't get into it because I can't be cute and comfortable, lies. Fucking lies. And it's funny because people are like, oh, that. Like, I wore this one as an example because it's very reminiscent of, like, stuff you see from, like, Doll's Kill.
Yeah.
In a lot of their graphic tees. I got this on a Hot Topic sale for, like, $20. And it's a dress. It's not even a shirt. This thing goes down to my knees.
I mean, if it's long and it covers your butt, it's like, yes, please let me wear that. But
Yeah,
that's
no.
the thing.
This is like the equivalent.
Guys, so
this is the equivalent of like that big, comfy black t-shirt dress you showed in the last video.
Oh yeah.
Like, I can wear this on its own. I can wear it with some fishnets. I can wear it with leggings. I'm wearing it with pants right now. I look a bit like a ragamuffin, but that's kind of my aesthetic these days. It's like somewhere between soccer mom, goth, and homeless.
Do you, girl? Do you? I didn't have those guys when, like, again, I liked this day, but much of it was just online and in the music I listened to and in the stuff that I wrote. And with my clothes, like, yeah, I had black boots because I always loved black boots. But my clothes was never that gothic, and it was more me having a bit of a slightly darker color scheme than the people around me all year round. So that
But
was it. And then
before I was
that,
allowed to have a mostly black wardrobe, like back when
yeah.
other people were buying my clothes, I had so much dark purple and so much navy blue in my life. And then I
Those are
would
good
and then I
colors.
would wear like cuz this was the late 90s, early 2000s. So of course I had every shade of blue and purple lipstick under the sun. And then like
Right.
this was my way of doing goth under strict parenting. I basically just look like a goddamn blueberry all the time.
Blueberries are delicious.
Oh yeah.
So I would say that was very, very good look.
It also helped I hung around with a lot of fruity people.
Oh yeah.
Hello, my gay fam. But the reason why I bring up these books in particular is these were the guides before the internet. Stuff like this. These are pre me having access to the internet's materials. That's the crazy part. Is like,
Yeah.
yeah, you got exposed to it online, but that was a much easier gateway than me. Oh God, what? I paid $16 for each of these books back in the day. Holy shit. Like, that's why I'm never getting rid of them. It's like the most I've ever paid out for such a small piece of literature. But they are hardbacks,
But
so I get it. But
and
yeah,
it does
we.
seem like you had a lot of use for them.
Oh
Like
yeah,
did
I
they
still
do
do.
that?
I
Yeah.
still do.
Because
There's.
again, the book I have from Gothic Charm School, that's not as much a fashion guide. It's more of a okay, here's an explanation about the subculture where it started and the historical aspects and stuff like that. And here's some of the common problems. And there's also a chapter for parents to
Oh
read
yeah.
if their kids are into and stuff like that. So it's more of a self-help life kind of guide and not as much about the fashion. And it also has a chapter about okay, what kind of problems do goth have? And they're like, okay, getting um, incense smells out of curtains, getting red wine stains off the carpet, and what to do if your, candles all of a sudden drip onto, the floor or, the table or whatever, how to clean that off. So it has those fun little things in there, but it's not much a fashion thing. So fashion wise, I never really looked goth. Like the darkest I looked was when I was more like in the kind of looking kind of phase,
Yeah.
but still not that much. And I also still like color, and I had no idea what I was doing. So it wasn't until I was 26, 27 there used to be a store here called Wonder Who, and she had a whole section of just goth and steampunk clothing.
You told me
And
about Wonder Who before.
yeah, and I went in there and I bought two things, a t-shirt and a skirt, put them on when I come home, and I was like, I've never felt so good in clothes in my life. So I just started getting some items from there and mixing them into my own. Still not perfect. And then she closed down, and I was like, what do I do now? Went to YouTube to see goth on a budget, just type it in, see what pops up. And also there's this whole thrift community. And I was like, oh, this is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Went through everything, found Angela Benedict, and she also had those fashion videos where I was like, oh, there's a lot of good examples of what to look for. So I wrote that down. Found Mai McGee, who's a Danish YouTuber from Copenhagen, who's also very alternative and gothic, more in the pagan style gothic, and also very Norse inspired. And she only thrifts or buy from small sustainable companies where you order something and then they sew it after you order it and then they send it to you. So I was like, oh, this is great. Now I have all this inspiration. Went out, started thrifting. I think I bought like 3 or 5 items from a high street store, like from new, in the last 2 years. Everything else is thrifted, like besides pantyhoses and underwear, because
Oh yeah, you never want to buy that stuff used.
no,
No,
never,
that's just grody.
never.
But
Yeah,
like the cool thing is like I've done thrifting for alternative stuff. It's not nearly as lucrative depending on where you go, especially in America. Like
it
on
also depends here.
like if
Again,
it's like if you're in big metropolitan areas, you're a lot more lucky. If you're in coastal cities, you're a lot more lucky about that kind of thing. but we have a whole thing called the Midwest. And they
I've
don't
heard about
they don't
that concept.
yeah, they don't really dig what we do over there. But this is actually a pretty good segue because where it's really hard to thrift goth everywhere you go, because I know where I was, like, finding secondhand was just fucking impossible. I would just have to basically I would just have to take normal things that just happened to come in black. And whereas, like, you found that budget way of doing it through thrifting, for me, it was through DIY. Now, I specifically bring up these books. The Generation T books. This is the first one. This is the second one.
And a quick thing that I just want to note to anyone who might be watching this is that, yes, they do not look goth, but that's the thing. When you have a template for something, the template doesn't have to be goth. You can make it goth.
Oh, yeah.
Like, seriously, if you have black anything, you're pretty much like 80% of the way. Like, it's okay. Don't worry about it.
Well, the cool thing with these books in particular is, I mean, if you just take a look at the stuff on the back, just the way it changes the silhouettes of just a basic t-shirt. You turn it into something completely different. Like this in a black shirt, or if you take a t-shirt, make a mock-up of it in any color, in any shitty shirt you want, you take that apart, you have a pattern for a whole different set of fabrics now.
Yeah.
And then you can just lay it down on other fabric, and then you can make something like that out of black lace, and then get some pasties and be an absolute kinkster about it. Like, it's not that much of a far fetch. And the best thing about this book in particular is that in the first, like, chapter or so, and this is why I always recommend these books in particular, it actually gives you a guide, and this is something you had brought up before. A basic guide on how to do all the different hand stitches.
Oh, nice.
So it gives you all the basic ways to hand stitch things in the most effective way possible. Like, you want to talk about, I don't even know what this ticket was for. What shitty movie did I use as a bookmark? This is not for a shitty movie. This is from when I went to see AWOL Nation. It's a concert ticket.
Oh, apologies to the ticket. You are awesome.
Yes. I mean, you want to talk about something like classically 2000s emo.
Oh, yeah, and with the school, I have a skirt just like that, and I used to have a vest
Yep.
just like that.
Yeah. And so, you know, people are like, oh, well, I don't know how to sew. I don't know how to, like, take clothes from thrift shops or, like, cheap black t-shirts I can find in a pack in the men's section. I don't know how to make those into cool clothes. Like, I always tell them these two books. Well, I don't know how to sew. It teaches you how to sew in very plain language. And when a friend of mine started shredding up her clothes with this, and then I also found out it had a sequel, and I saw that scarf on the back, I cannot tell you how many of these I had over the years in all sorts of different fabrics. I mean, yeah, it's purple there. I had a purple one as well. But these, oh my god.
Those strands, you could just take some, like, what are they called now? Safety
pins? Yeah.
Yeah, safety pins, and just drape them down.
Oh, yeah.
Between them or down the strands, whatever you want.
I would fasten it with safety pins. I would put silver beads on the ends of the fringe and tie them off. I would braid some of these, and then it would look a little more Viking-esque. And I would make them out of different materials, too. The only thing with this one is that it needs to be able to stretch in order to get the fringe to look right. You can find stretchy material all over the place. And yeah, seriously. Like, these 2 books are like a baby DIYer's, first guide to everything. And what's great is because it's working with a medium we all have. T-shirts.
And scissors.
And scissors. Like, most of these are no-sew projects.
Yeah.
It's just cut it up and tie shit together.
Yeah, I wish I was more into the DIY, but I have this little hurdle where I'm like, I have these ideas, but I'm afraid to jump into the deep end, which is funny because when it comes to paper DIY, like this journal right here.
Yeah. Well, and here's something
this used to be a hair dye box. And I sewed it and everything. And I was like, it was one of those days where I was like, it stood on the counter and I was like, I should throw it out. And I was like, no, I can use it. So just one Saturday morning, didn't put on clothes, didn't shower, just had my breakfast on one side and had this on the other side, started cutting and sewing. And I was like, yeah, that's it. Now I have a journal. Good to go. But as soon as I have to do the clothes, I'm like,
oh, but here's the thing. But here's the thing you need to think about now. Because you brought it up in your video, and there's a reason I dug out these in particular. One, I wanted to talk about how my path to, bargain bin goth wasn't through thrifting, it was through DIY. And basically taking things I already had and shredding them up and making cute shit out of it. Which is why I'm glad we talked about the emo thing early on, because my sister did it just in a different way and with a lot of Sharpies. Yeah. God, I bought that bitch so many Sharpies back in the day. Oh my God.
She was very thankful, I'm sure.
I'm pretty sure most of them are still hidden under her bed. God, those markers are so old. But,
I have so many Sharpies here as well.
But, you brought up in your last video that you haven't been thrifting as much because you feel like you have a solid wardrobe now.
Yeah.
Here's the thing that now that you have that, you can still go thrifting once in a while and look for the things that might be more, I like it, but it would be better if I did this to it. And now that it's a lot less risk involved because you already have your core wardrobe. Like, because I understand that feeling. There was so many times when I was developing my alternative wardrobe and I'm just like, oh God, like, should I take the scissors to this? I mean, yeah, I only paid $5 for it, but it was my last $5. If I cut it and then I can't wear it, I'm fucked. And I know that level of stress, but once I had a solid wardrobe, I felt more free to get creative with the DIY and take bigger risks. And so now that you have that solid wardrobe, dabbling more into the DIY stuff and making something that's more custom is a lot less risky right now.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying, and I think you're right. I think you're right. So, and one of the things is I said those 2 things missing: a pair of black shorts. Again, once the weather gets warmer, they put out the shorts so I can find a pair of shorts. And then I need a black blazer. I found the black blazer 2 days later after I made the video. All I have to do is change the button.
Show me!
Okay.
Don't make me rage.
I will not make you rage. So I was very, very lucky. So I have to change the button because it looks a little plasticky.
No, you have a bat in the corner.
Yes. His name is Benny.
Hi, Beanie. Oh, and I love the polka dot lining.
Yeah. So all is that this little plasticky thing.
Oh, yeah.
I just have to, So I'm just going to change that to like a matte black, maybe fabric covered little button. And I think that will look much better. But yeah, it has this inside.
Yeah, and that changing out the button will definitely posh it up a bit.
Yeah. And then it's from H&M's Divided line. So if anyone wants to see if they can find it new.
Nice.
So, and I paid
if it were
I paid less than $7 for it.
Nice.
Yeah.
If it were me specifically, changing out the button instead of going for a matte black or a fabric covered button, I would try to find a brushed metal button.
I think that could look great, but the only, and I did think about that, maybe it's like a Victorian kind of design metal looking button. But I was like, this is going in my basic wardrobe. I want to make sure that I can use it with any outfit, not
no,
just
no, no.
where that kind of thing would
I mean,
fit,
just
you know?
like a basic button, but it being a metallic color. Because, like, for me,
I can see that work.
like, for me, because, like, a silver or a bronze button, for me, goes with anything.
Yeah.
It's kind of the neutrals of metal.
Yeah, they are. But then in the same breath, and also for like less than $7, I found this see-through thingy. So
I'm kind of jealous. Yeah. I love sheer jackets. But then again, being in Phoenix for as long as I was, black mesh was my friend. So I mean, much black mesh. I was like,
for summer, this is going to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And it's by the brand Vila, if everyone is.
Because for me, it's like a case of when it is hot, like, I'm a sweaty bitch. I make no
Same here.
I make no qualms about it. And when I lived in Phoenix for as long as I did, my entire wardrobe basically consisted of a couple of things. One, I did a lot of belly dance back in the day, and so I had a lot of harem pants I made out of like old bed sheets. So old black bed sheets. So they were so light and comfy and breathable. And then I'd wear sketty strap tank tops with it. And then I had like a bunch of like sheer shirts that I would use over that. So that way I didn't feel like my chicken, cutlet arms were like hanging out in the, freaking breeze. And so I would have these like mesh tops that went over it. And people are just like, you look like you're, trying to travel across the desert. And I'm like, on a horse with no name.
Because of course, bitch. but yeah, like the thing about sheer like strokes and shirts and stuff is that you feel covered, but you also feel a little bit risque because you can still kind of see you. So, and for someone like me who doesn't like to show off a lot of skin because it makes me feel a bit uncomfortable, those kind of shirts are actually quite good because I can still show off a little bit. So you're like, yes, now I'm sexy because I'm showing off skin, but I'm still covered, so I don't have to feel uncomfortable about it.
I'm the exact opposite. I grew up a theater kid. I did Rocky Horror, belly dance, and cosplay. I'm shameless. Everybody has seen basically my everything at some point.
Like, I didn't used to be that uncomfortable with it. It's just something I kind of grew into, not as a shame thing, but more as to like, no, I don't like showing off a lot of cleavage, and I don't like showing off a lot of arms and a lot of legs. Like, I don't mind skin tight. I just want to be somewhat covered.
Well, and the funny thing is like, no, I am of the mind that modesty above all things is a choice. At least it should be.
Yeah.
Anybody who tries to pressure you one way or the other, either due to cultural reasons, religious reasons, or just them trying to subject their own taste onto you.
Yeah. Exactly. Flip the bird to those
people.
Oh
God. Like, it's like, people have asked me in the past, like, why are you friends with women that do the whole hijab thing? And I'm like, well, first of all, every single friend of mine that I've had that has done that, I only have one question for them. Were you told to do it, or did you choose to do it? Yeah. If they were told to do it, we're not friends. If they chose to do it of their own accord, then by all means, we can be friends. I think it's a beautiful aesthetic. But for me, it's the intent behind the look. And a lot of people go, oh, what about this? What is your intent behind this look? I'm like, honestly, from day one, it was just to basically tell people, I'm a weirdo. And this is how I'm comfortable. This is what I find cute. If you don't like it, tough titty. I'm still gonna be nice to you, but if you don't like it and you want to be an asshole, go elsewhere. But
Yes. For me, I'm a little bit of an artist soul in that sense. Also because again, being on the autism spectrum, expressing oneself can be difficult.
mm-hmm.
So for me, it's like I want to show my inner world to other people, but I can't always do that in words because when I showed like writings and stuff to people, they're like, "Oh, I didn't know you were so sad or so depressed." And I'm like, I'm not sad or depressed. This makes me happy. so,
I know,
so the
right?
clothes is So the clothes is a good way to do it because people ask and I'm like, well, because it makes me happy. And if they have more questions after that, if they're not assholes, I'll answer them. But I did have one lady in that Wonder Who store who looked at me. She was a customer and she looked at me. She's like, "So what are you?" And I was just like, "That's such a deep question." So I looked at her for a few seconds. And I was like, I think I'm what you call goth. So I like these things and these and these and these, and I prefer to shop in this section of the store." And she
Yeah.
just stared at me, and I could kind of tell that she wasn't satisfied with that answer. But I was like, what else am I supposed to say? Like, do you want a philosophical answer about who I am as a person or as a being, a biological answer? Like, what do you want?
Well, and
I just do
the,
this.
the funny thing about that is I get asked that question a lot. And I'm like, I'm gonna give you guys the same answer I gave in my teenage years, because even though in my teenage years this was more just to be a snarky asshole, I find that older I get, the more it's not, and that's just genuinely awesome. People are like, so what are you? And I'm like, whatever I want to be today.
Exactly.
It's like, all life's a stage. This may be my costume today. Tomorrow I might be dressed like a, half dragon person going to the Ren Fair. I've got a
You
fox.
never know.
I got a foxtail in my closet. I'm not ashamed.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
and
I am,
sometimes
cultivating an all white besides my all black wardrobe because
oh
I
my
like
god.
white.
And it's like and some days I want to be that girl in the flowy white dress, spinning out in the middle of a freaking cornfield like I'm in a country music video. Why? Because I grew up in the country, and that shit's freaking awesome. No matter what your aesthetic is. Oh my god, fresh air and actual food. How dare I?
Yes.
But
And I think that's also can lead into one of the things that I actually wrote down on my list here,
mm-hmm.
which is online versus real life. Because a lot of the times what you see online, Instagram, Tumblr, YouTube, whatever, you kind of feel like, oh, this is what they're presenting, so they must be this goth 24/7 all year round. And it's like, no, we're not. Like, we all have to go to the bathroom. We all have to go food shopping. Like, when I go to the gym, I certainly do not look goth. I wear something that's comfortable to work out in and that I don't mind stinking of sweat when I'm done. And all my hair back, no makeup, anything. I look awful when I go to the gym. And I look even worse when I come home from the gym. But you're not supposed to look goth in that instance. Like, when I clean the house or my apartment, like, I don't look goth. I'm not dressed to the nines because I know I'm gonna get sweaty. I know I'm gonna get, like, soap stains all over myself. And again, when I sit and create, yes, I can look goth that day, but when I take out the paints and the water and everything, I'm like, I better go put on something that I don't mind getting stained.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, and I don't wear makeup every day because I don't have the freaking time to put it on every day.
And it's like, I knew we were going to be doing this video.
Yeah, same.
So
makeup.
like, I threw makeup on. This is when I'm doing my average goth look. This is average.
Same here.
But here's the thing. 90% of the time, I don't wear makeup at all. You wanna know why? I live in a fucking desert. doing all this to my face every fucking day and still trying to maintain good skin, it'll destroy it.
Same here.
Effing destroy it.
I have very dry skin. Like, I can't put on a lot of makeup every day because it's just gonna make it worse. And sometimes when I've done all the shit to my skin that's gonna make it stay nice and dewy for 4 days, the day I do it, I can't put on makeup because it will just wash off.
But I tell you what though, when I put on my most comfortable pair of ripped black jeans, my black flip-flops, a t-shirt with a pattern on it similar to this that looks like I've been wearing it for 20 years, probably because I don't throw shit away. and this fucking hat that I've also had for 20 years, don't at me, it's still amazing. Like, and I've got toast in my teeth and and I'm like, fuck it. I want to get snacks down at the corner store. Makeup or no makeup, I think the cashier knows what I'm into.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, makeup is not a prerequisite to be in the goth. Like, it certainly adds to it, but it's not a requirement. Like, people who sit there and go like, oh, you have to have the eyeliner and you have to have the mascara. I'm like, I
don't believe you have the white face paint. I don't like. Yeah,
it's not a
requirement. I'm naturally pale. Like, you don't need it.
Oh yeah, no. Like, I don't even wear foundation anymore. One, I'm ginger, so I have the luckiness to already be very pale.
Yeah.
Like, it's funny because I keep looking at my teeth and I just keep thinking to myself like, if we had an actual light on my face like we had earlier, my face would be like whiter than my teeth. Because I happen to smoke hookah and I'm just like, probably a good thing I didn't go with the bright light. Otherwise I'd be looking like I got this funky British yellow grill going on. But when it comes to like the internet stuff, I feel like that is a video for another day. And honestly, if you wanted to make this a mini series, I would not object. Although I try to shoot for a little earlier in the morning if possible, because I did not realize this would mean I was going to be up till 3.
Oh, I'm sorry.
and we are.
I don't even know what time it is. Oh yeah.
And we just crossed into over an hour. But I know there's more shit we want to talk about. So
yeah,
I think we should call it here though.
Yeah, just a couple of quick comments on the whole online thing. Like, when you go in and search on YouTube and Twitter and Instagram, and what I usually search is everyday goth, because that's the thing. 90% of our lives is every day, and that's what you have to cater your wardrobe to and your look to. So that's also why my basic wardrobe, I can put something on. Like in the last video, I had my poofy skirt, my oversized t-shirt. I would wear that with my boots and a ponytail and just a couple of accessories, and I'll be like, I'm the gothest person ever today. No makeup, nothing fancy, but it's just, you need to feel comfortable and in your aesthetic even when you're dressed down, and that's the basic wardrobe. We can't
all be Black Friday every day. Not even Black Friday.
No, that's the thing. There's a supermodel, I can't remember if it was Cindy Crawford or whoever it was, but there was a supermodel in the 90s who was like, not even I wake up in the morning and look like myself as a supermodel. Like, it takes 10 hours and a team of people. So when it comes to everyday life, 90% of lives, everyday life. And that's one of the things that annoys me when I look up everyday goth, because there's like, oh, you have to put on 10 layers of makeup and this elaborate outfit, and this is easy everyday life outfit. And then you look at everything they use, and none of it is below $50. And it can only, and from my experience, it can only be imported from overseas, which means I have to pay 3 times the amount to just get it into the country and to get it from the post office because of the taxes that's put on it. So, get inspiration and say, okay, I like those colors. I like the way that she straightened her hair that way, and I like the way that skirt or pants fits him or her. And then note those things down, and then go out to your high street stores. H&M worldwide, Hot Topic for and Target, and Forever 21 for overseas. I know here in Europe we have the best seller lines, which have only Veramoda, Pieces, and Vila, and for the guys they have Jack and Jones. So, like, go to those stores, go to thrift stores if you're lucky enough that you have some decent ones, and just try and find pieces that emulate that. And again, like Xeiren said, DIY them. Do stuff to them. And if you're not comfortable with DIY, then just wear something simple and buy like 1 or 2 expensive pieces that you can use with everything.
You want to know the biggest secret to me saving money on clothes these days?
Yeah, let me know, please.
I get all of my leggings and all of my jeans from Walmart.
I mean,
it's like 90% of what I wear on my bottom half is just cheap athletic leggings and, you know, black jeans. And, you know, if I want them to, like, have holes in them, I make my own damn holes. I'm not buying shit with holes in them already and paying $70 for that shit. Fuck no. I got scissors and, like, keys. I can cut a hole and then rough it up with some keys. And, you know, I've taken, you know, bits from like old fishnet or old mesh tops that I ripped or whatever, and then I, you know, sew it in there to like make it like look like I'm wearing like knit stockings underneath there. It's
add
really
some
not
safety
hard.
pins. Add some safety pins here and there, and you have a pair of gothic leggings or gothic jeans. Like, I wear a lot of pantyhoses. I go to the supermarket as well, because usually they have like 2 for 1 or buy one and get the other half off or something like that. It's pantyhoses. I mean, they're gonna look pristine when I wear them, and then they're gonna get ripped and look even more awesome after a little while. And at one point, they're gonna get so ripped that I can't even wear them anymore because they start just, you know, falling off. And then you go and wear another new 2 pairs. I mean,
this is how you know how much of a Rocky Horror nerd I am. I only own fishnets, and most of them are torn to shreds. Not for aesthetics, but because of stage malfunctions.
And that's a good thing about liking the gothic aesthetic in your fashion choices, because if something tears, it's like, oh, this added to the look. Now it looks even more awesome.
As long as it's not showing my cooch or my nips, I don't care.
Yeah, I mean,
I can always layer something else underneath it.
I have a poofy skirt that's like, how old is it now? It's like 12 years old.
Oh, Jesus.
The only thing, yeah, and I love that skirt. The only thing holding it together are all the safety pins I put in. And it looks freaking awesome.
Oh, shit.
Oh! I know.
Speaking of malfunctions.
What's in that cup you've been sipping from? What's in that cup?
Honestly, fucking Mountain Dew.
We actually have that now in the store that I live next to. So.
Am I okay? Am I okay?
Yeah, you're okay. I see black, and I see you, and I see a chair.
Okay, we're good. You know what? I'm just gonna leave that shit in, because you know what? We can't always be walking around looking like Victorian romantic goths every day. Mm-hmm. And sometimes webcams fall over.
I mean, right now, I said you're not stacked on books, but you are actually on 2, because otherwise webcam to look at my face. So you are on the collected works of Edgar Allan Poe and the collected works of H.P. Lovecraft.
Well, at least I'm on those.
Yes, you're on top of those guys.
Honestly, they would be my bottom bitches anyway.
Yeah, I know. So,
and I think on that note, we should probably call it before we tread into the 1.5-hour territory. But I know we have more stuff we want to cover, so we'll definitely have to do this again in a couple weeks.
Yeah, definitely, and maybe try either get me to do it on a late evening, so that you have the rest of the day, or get me to be ready an hour earlier.
Oh, we'll figure it out. Basically, I goofed because my daylight savings time is not your daylight savings time.
Oh.
And that's how I goofed it. Oops.
Oopsie.
I'm like, oh yeah, I'll get on at midnight. And then our buddy over in Belgium was just like, no, 1 a.m. And I'm like, oh yeah. Oops.
I thought daylight saving times was the same for every single country.
No. For some reason in Central European Standard Time, it actually fluctuates with the lunar calendar, I think. Whereas here, it's like a specific number of weeks into the year.
I mean, we are more pagan than you guys, so that makes sense.
I'm working on it.
I know, I can tell.
Here's hoping none of my family see this video. Anyway, I think we'll have to call it at that.
Yeah.
All right.
So this has been fun. We're probably going to make a part 2, and hopefully you enjoyed this casual goth talk with a bit of fashion in there. We will do one that's more fashion oriented, but I think this is a very good introduction.
Oh yeah.
To it, with a few general tips here and there.
Yeah.
So
first the fashion, then the makeup, then the music.
Yes. With a little bit of hair sprinkled in.
Oh yeah. Or in my case, a lot of it.
I mean, I have the typical Scandinavian fine hair thing going on, so.
Yeah, well, my hair is fine, but I'm Irish, so I of course grow way too much of it.
Oh yeah. I mean, you gotta have those Irish roots coming out somewhere.
Let's not bring my roots into it. They're kind of oily. I am wearing a hat for a reason. All right.
But yeah, this has been so much fun, and I think a good intro. So next time we'll probably try and structure it a tiny bit more.
Yes, but we also won't be scrambling to figure out how to record it either.
Oh no. Seriously, I thought you knew how to record it. That's
I thought you knew how to record it, and then I had to teach myself in a minute to figure out how to do it. It was so sad.
I was watching YouTube videos when you were like, Okami's teaching me, and I was like, oh, okay. I'm just gonna lean back now because Okami's got it figured out.
Oh yeah. No, he usually runs the technical end of all of our shit. So I'm just like, oh dear. But now we're just getting out of context and people will understand I'll have to edit some of this out.
Yes. Although, Okami, good segue. You are often of the wolf's den,
Yes. I have my ASMR channel, Xeiren ASMR. She's already linked it once. I'm sure she'll link it again.
Yes.
We have the Wolf's Den podcast, which is over on Podbean. We talk about horror movies, anime, and music. We are a bunch of freaky weird nerds that are into some freaky weird shit. If you do the TikTok thing, I like to pretend to be a vampire over there, so if you just look up Xeiren_ASMR, I'm on there too. It's cringy, but then again, we all need a little cringe in our lives.
Yeah.
You can
of course always find me here.
Yes.
On Moth Angel, and my blog is up and running again. So that below as well.
I just realized I shouldn't do that with this lipstick. I have butthole syndrome.
Again, goth problem that no one talks about when they do these amazing black lipstick videos.
The butthole coverage.
Again, be aware of this if you want to wear the black lipstick or just a dark lipstick in general, because no one talks about that when they do these gothic makeup videos. But it just looks awesome for the camera. And then when you go out, you're like, I have to think about how I enunciate my words so I don't show the butthole.
Yeah. Or when they're not sitting here drinking white trash soda at 3 a.m.
Whatever you gotta do to stay awake, I guess.
Anyway. All right. Later, everybody.
Bye.